Hello boys. So for our tour of the shop today, I want to talk about some of these pictures right here. So this picture right here, which I think you can't see really very well, but it's a building with a little driveway. It's along a railroad track. There's a transformer right here, electrical switch. This was the garage at J.B. Rogers where I worked. This was the door we went in. What you can't see is on the other side of this, there's two roll-up doors. We had some lifts in there. I drove by there. It's not J.B. Rogers anymore, of course. I drove by there, oh gosh, 2-3 years ago, and through the fence, I took this picture because I have so many memories in this area right here. We'd hang out here at the end of a Friday. George Rogers and J.B. Rogers were old men. They'd come and hang out with us in the garage. Inside there was a refrigerator right here that they kept vodka and grapefruit juice in. They called them Greyhounds. They'd come back, drink Greyhounds, and play Liar's Poker with Carl. I'll explain Liar's Poker someday if you care about it. They just use dollar bills. You can Google it. This is my business card. J.B. Rogers Mechanical, Andy St. Clair, Vehicle Maintenance. They told me I could have a business card. They were going to put mechanic on it, and I thought, I'll be fancy and be called Vehicle Maintenance. Anyway, I have a business card there. These are pictures that were given to me when I left J.B. Rogers. Let's see if you can see that, some of those. Just some of note, this picture right here, it's hard to tell, but I have frosting on my face. This guy here is John Yale. He was an absolute son of a bitch. He was my boss, but he believed in me. He could be a son of a bitch and still make sure that the guys he saw that he had some belief in would do well. He's the one that got me out of the garage. I will tell you, he was an absolute son of a bitch. But he came through for me. He helped me. And so I have very sort of complex feelings about John Yale. But all in all, he was good for me, even though, like I say, he was an absolute son of a bitch. And this last picture, this here is from, this is West Point cadets reading Allen Ginsberg's Howl. I saw this photo in it wasn't old at the time. I used to subscribe to a magazine called Yellow Silk. It was a magazine of fiction and photography. And I saw this picture in there and it just struck me. It was in 1993, I think. And I had been on the hunt for it for many, 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 many years, and I finally found it. And so I framed it. I wished it was bigger. This I think, is a postcard. But there's something about those West Point cadets trying to struggle their way through a beat poet like Allen Ginsberg and that famous poem, Howl, just always struck me. I kind of feel a kinship with those guys. Anyway, that's what that is. That's what these four things are. Anyway, so the story you asked me today, Mitchell, is about when you were born. And boy, oh boy, was that an event. We, of course, that you were our first, of course, and we were nervous as hell. I can't remember, Mom will know, I think she was induced to labor. I do believe she was induced. I don't think it came about naturally like with Tom. If I remember correctly, they had to break her water. I think it was all scheduled is what I'm getting at, because she had been on bed rest, not as long as with Tom, but things weren't looking great. So I'm going to pick it up as if that's true. I do believe it's true that you were induced. Anyway, we went to the hospital, Good Samaritan, which you know, and Grandma was there. She stayed the entire time, which turned out to be about 24 hours. Mom was in labor for 22 to 23 hours. It was really, really tough on her, and all of us, but really her. She couldn't, I mentioned in Tommy's video about dilating to 10 centimeters. Mom never dilated that big with you. You were, of course, a C-section, but she tried for a really long time. She finally just got so exhausted, she couldn't push anymore. They gave her an epidural, which is a nerve block, so she couldn't feel that pain anymore. She was just exhausted. This had been probably 18 hours of laboring. And then you started to get a fever. They had monitors on you inside mom. They had some wires going in there monitoring you. I think there was a little thing with a little hook that actually hooked into your head. A little tiny needle hook that, probably hurt baby Mitchell, at that point fetus Mitchell, but there was no way else to get any readings on you. You were in distress, and so they said, we're gonna have to take by C-section. So wheeled you downstairs. Grandma stuck around. She was there the entire time. But I went in with mom, and she was groggy. Of course, they put her on drugs and anesthetic and the gas, whatever. She was out. I think she was sort of in a twilight. I don't think she was really out. She couldn't feel anything. She had that spinal block in. And I didn't see any of it. Thankfully, they had the little screen up. I'm sitting up by mom's head. Mom would be about right here. And I was on a little stool like this one, except a lot shorter next to her head. Anesthesiologist on the other side. He was talking to me just to kind of keep me focused on what was going on, because it was very worrying. We didn't know if we were going to lose you or not. I heard you cry for the first time while you were still inside mom. They got her open, and you were crying, and it was like wow, 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 because I could tell when they were bringing you out, because it was a muffled cry, and then they brought you out. They cleaned you up, they handed you to me, and I held you down by mom so she could kiss on you. They were working on getting the placenta out and stitching her up, so she couldn't really hold you. I think she might have held you for just a moment, but she was so in and out. And then they took you away, they took you upstairs. I don't remember a lot. It was so long ago, 31 years now. Today's your birthday. Actually, tomorrow I'm filming this. I will release this on your birthday, so you have it. It's the 18th today. Anyway, I don't remember leaving mom to go upstairs. Nevertheless, I went upstairs and I said, where's my son? They said, he's in there. I went in and you were just butt naked, just looking around. You weren't crying. The nurse had her hand like this, and you were propped up in her hand. You had one arm over her thumb, the other arm over this, because you were so tiny, and you're just chilling. And you're looking at me when I came in, and I noticed, I'm like, how am I going to make sure? I had been thinking, how am I going to make sure they don't swap like a kid on accident? So I saw you. You had your little bracelet on your ankle, which I saw them put on, and I saw that you had that line, little tiny bumps along your neck, which you have to this day. As you've grown, they've grown, but by then they were really tiny. I said, okay, that's how I'm going to mark this kid. So they let me hold you. And then I went back down to see mom. I was dazed. It had been a long 24 hours. By that point, it's probably 27, 28. By that point, the nurse told me to go home, and I did not want to go home. I could not leave you and mom. Grandma was still there. She told me, you have to go home. You have to get rest. And I just wept. I couldn't imagine leaving you and your mom there. The most important people in my life. My life had just changed immensely. But I did. I went home. I got some rest. I came back up. You and mom were in the hospital for a number of days. I don't remember how many days, 2, 3, 4 maybe. I don't remember. I do know we were there on Oscar night of 1994. Whatever date that was, late March. They do them in February now. But I do remember sitting there at Oscar night and wearing a mustard colored shirt, and you hadn't pooped yet. And the nurse came in, and I was holding you. The nurse came in and she said, that's a perfect color shirt. I said, why? Because she said, because when he takes a shit, it's that color and you won't stain your shirt. Anyway, we got you home. The first night was terrible. You cried so much, you had colic. We didn't know what to do. There's no instruction manual, as they say, but we figured it out. We figured out how to wrap you, swaddle you. You love to be swaddled, and I knew how to swaddle you nice and tight, snug. I'd put your arms down, I'd bring your knees up, I'd wrap you. We called you the little burrito. And we knew you, when you were that way, you were down like this, you were calm. You would stay calm. We used to call you, you had a turkey popper. I don't know if you remember on like Butterball turkeys, they have a little popper that pops up when the turkey's done, a little red thing that'll pop up when the turkey's done. We called your hand your turkey popper because you'd start wrapped up like this and you'd struggle, not really struggle, but eventually maybe an hour and 15 minutes, your hand would come out the top and you'd do this. So you'd like that, and mom would say, his turkey popper's out, and that means you're about to wake up and start losing your shit because you want to eat or your stomach hurt or something like that. To give your mom a break from the breastfeeding and all that stuff, well, just from the constant tending to you, I didn't help with breastfeeding, obviously. I would carry you around, just pace up and down in our little tiny house there on Townley. And I hate to admit this, but I would blow in your eyes. Not real hard, I just kind of like that, so that you would close your eyes because I was trying to get you to sleep, so I was trying to cheat your eyes closed. So you'd say, oh, so in my head, and I was young, I was 28 years old, if he closes his eyes, there might be a point at which he closes them and then says, ooh, this is nice, I'm gonna stay this way. But it didn't work that way, but I'd blow in your eyes. Yeah, you commando crawled. I'm sure mom told you about that. You never did crawl properly. As soon as you could figure out a way to move, you were on the move. You never did crawl. You commando crawl, which is elbows and knees. That's how you did it. You went from that to standing to walking. You never crawled like a regular baby. And you would just move. You could move so fast like that. You ever seen those videos of they put a turtle on a little skateboard and he can really fucking move? You could fucking move when you were doing that. Last thing I remember was when you were little, you weren't a baby anymore. I used to write, of course, you write fiction. I wrote stories for you called, the hero of the story was Baby Saturn King. That's the planet, Baby Saturn King. That name came from a painting I saw once years ago. It was a baby with a ring, with like Saturn ring on his face, and the painting was called Baby Saturn King, and that stuck with me. But Baby Saturn King was a prince of the planet Saturn. He would be king someday. I never wrote that many of those stories, so we never got to where he got to be king, but he was Baby Saturn King. I don't know if you remember those. I don't know if you ever remember me reading them. I don't think I read them to you for a super long time. I only wrote 2, maybe 3 of them. They were fun. Yeah, so that's the story of you being born. I sure am glad you were born. Happy birthday. My boy, I love you so much. Love you too, Tommy.